This story is called The Chronicles of the Forgotten Dawn, Chapter 1, by Ballers from the HFY subreddit. The dimly lit classroom pulsed gently with the low hum of the bunker's life support systems, a constant reminder of the delicate existence of its inhabitants. Teacher Lyra, an elder of the Gennari race, stood tall and serene before her students, her translucent silver skin catching the faint luminescence from the crystalline panels embedded in the walls. Around her, a group of alien children, diverse in shape, size, and color, sat in levitating pods that adjusted to their forms, their wide, multi-hued eyes shimmering with curiosity, reflecting the glow of the classroom's soft, artificial light. The room, despite its low ceilings and metallic walls, was a sanctuary of hope and learning, hidden far beneath the surface of a desolate planet in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. The children ranged from Lyolins with their delicate silvery tendrils, Thrin with glowing, gossamer wings that fluttered faintly, as if sensing the tension in the air. Some were scaled, others furred, and so others bore shimmering bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in rhythm with their thoughts. Each child represented a fragment of the galaxy's fractured tapestry, united now in this tiny underground refuge. Illyra surveyed them with a gaze both tender and resolute, the weight of centuries reflected in her opalescent eyes. Her voice, resonant and melodic, broke the silence. 2,000 years ago, she began, our ancestors, the Days, made a choice born of brilliance, yet veiled in hubris. They believed they could uplift a primitive species, a fledgling race from a fragile blue planet called Earth. To them, these creatures, these apes, were full of promise. They saw potential. They saw curiosity. They saw what they thought was a thirst for knowledge, a longing to explore the stars. She paused, allowing her words to settle in the room. The children leaned forward, their faces a mixture of awe and unease. Illyra's tone grew heavier, laden with sorrow. With great optimism, the Days shared fragments of their advanced technology, just fragments, mind you. Tools to ease burdens, to heal the sick, to reach farther than their eyes could see. They offered Earthlings the key to unlock the wonders of the cosmos, and for a time, the Earthlings used these gifts to thrive. Her voice dropped and the light in her eyes dimmed as she continued. But what her ancestors couldn't see, what no one foresaw, was the predator that lay beneath their skin. A ripple of discomfort passed through the room. The children, instinctively attuned to one another's emotions, exchanged glances. Their whispering telepathic connections flickered like static, a faint hum in the back of Illyra's mind. One of the youngest, a Lylin with tendrils that glowed faintly like liquid silver, raised a delicate hand. Why didn't they know? The child asked, her voice a soft melody. Couldn't the Days see their minds? Couldn't they feel them? Illyra exhaled slowly, her expression shadowed by memories she had not lived but had inherited through the teachings of her people. The Days were wise, she said softly, but wisdom does not always see the hidden darkness. The Earthlings masked their true nature behind layers of ingenuity and charm. Their minds were sharp, their spirits unyielding, their ambitions boundless. But ambition untethered by morality is a force of devastation. It was a lesson learned too late. The children sat stunned in silence, the bioluminescent patterns dimming. The youngest among them twitched nervously, his wings folding tight against his back. What happened? Another child asked, his voice quivering. What did they do? Illyra closed her eyes briefly, as if summoning the strength to speak. When she opened them again, they shone with a somber intensity. It began with Azari, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The name hung in the air like a specter, sending shivers through the room. The Azari, whose legacy was one of pride and power, had once been the guardians of a vast territory in the Andromeda expanse. Their crystalline ships had glided through the void like ancient leviathans, their advanced weaponry unmatched. To them, the Earthlings were insignificant, a young, naive species that had wandered too far into their domain. The Azari, Illyra continued, saw the Earthlings as trespassers. They issued warnings, stern and uncompromising, but the Earthlings, they didn't understand. Or perhaps they did and simply refused to bow. Either way, the Azari chose to enforce their will. Her voice grew colder. The Azari sought to teach the Earthlings a lesson. They destroyed one of their colonies, a small outpost in a distant moon. To the Azari, it was a minor act of discipline. To the Earthlings, it was an act of war. The children gasped, their collective unease deepening. One of them, a young Thrin with soft amber eyes, clutched the edges of her pod. But the Earthlings were so small, weren't they? So young. How could they fight the Azari? Illyra's gaze hardened, and her voice dropped to a grave whisper. It wasn't their strength that made them dangerous. It was their adaptability, their cunning. The Azari did not awaken a foe. They awakened a beast. She stepped closer to the children, her presence commanding but gentle, her silver skin shimmering faintly as if reflecting the gravity of her words. "You must understand," she said, her tone almost pleading. The Earthlings had evolved on a planet of chaos and competition. For millennia, they had fought for survival against predators larger and stronger than themselves. They had honed their minds as the greatest weapon, and when the Azari struck, they did what no one expected. They learned, they adapted, and they retaliate. The children sat frozen, their thoughts flickering among one another like fireflies in the darkness. Alira's words hung heavy in the air. The Azari thought they could crush the Earthlings quickly, but every defeat made the Earthlings stronger. Every skirmish taught them new tactics. They were not bound by the traditions or codes of honor that governed the rest of us. They fought with a ferocity that defied reason, driven by something primal, something we could not comprehend. She paused, her voice trembling slightly as she uttered the final words of her tale. The Azari made the first mistake. They pushed Earthlings too far, and in doing so, they doomed us all. The classroom fell into a suffocating silence, the children's bioluminescent patterns dimming further as the weight of the story settled over them. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, from the back of the room, a soft voice broke the stillness. "What happened next?" the child asked. Alira's expression darkened, her gaze distant. "What happened next?" she said quietly. "Was the beginning of the end." The hum of the life support system grew louder in the silence that followed, a reminder of how fragile their existence had become. Outside the safety of the bunker, the galaxy lay in ruins, a testament to the folly of the days and the unrelenting wrath of humanity. The Andromeda expanse stretched across light years of shimmering cosmic beauty, a vast, open territory dotted with stars and gas clouds that glowed like celestial fire. It was a realm that had, for millennia, belonged to the Azari, a proud race of crystalline beings known for their territorial dominance and unmatched mastery of energy manipulation. To the Azari, the expanse was a sacred domain, fiercely guarded against intruders. They were a species of order and precision, their culture deeply rooted in hierarchy and control. It was here, in these sprawling galactic plains, that humanity stumbled blindly into a destiny that would forever alter the fate of the universe. Humanity's interstellar age was in its infancy. Just a few decades earlier, Earth explorers had broken free from the confines of their solar system, propelled by technology gifted them by the days. The Earthlings, bright and daring, saw the stars not as boundaries, but as invitations. Their ships were clunky and unsophisticated by galactic standards, resembling angular relics compared to the organic fluid vessels of the Azari. Yet, within their crude hulls burned an insatiable desire to explore, to conquer the unknown. When the first human ships entered the Andromeda expanse, their crews had no idea they were trespassing on territory considered sacred to the Azari. They charted new stars, mined asteroids, and established small outposts with a casual arrogance born of ignorance. To the Azari, these actions were not merely offensive, they were blasphemous. The Azari sent a warning, a message carried on a beam of coherent light that sliced through space and etched itself into the communication arrays of Earthling vessels. The message was both a warning and a declaration. The space is not yours. Leave or face annihilation. The Earthlings, naive and bold, did not heed the warning. They misunderstood the Azari's tone as a challenge rather than a threat. Perhaps it was arrogance. Perhaps it was desperation. The records are unclear. What is certain is that humanity's response, a small fleet sent deeper into the expanse, was perceived by the Azari as an act of war. The Azari saw humanity as little more than insects, Alira explained to her students, her voice tinged with bitterness. The children sat enraptured, their glowing eyes wide with anticipation. To them, we were intruders, crawling uninvited into the sacred domain. They did what they believed was necessary to protect their territory. They destroyed an Earthling outpost. Alira paused, her luminous gaze sweeping across the room. They thought it would be enough to frighten humanity into submission. The destruction of the outpost was swift and absolute. The Azari's fleet, composed of massive crystalline ships that shimmered with prismatic light, descended on the colony like celestial predators. Energy beams carved through the Earthling structures, reducing them to ash. Ships were torn apart, their fragments scattered across the void. Thousands of lives were extinguished in mere moments. To the Azari, it was a minor act of discipline, a reminder of their dominance. To humanity, it was a declaration of war. "What happened next?" asked a small Thrin child, his glowing wings trembling faintly. Alira's expression darkened. What happened next, young one, was something no one, not the Azari, not even the Days, could have anticipated. The Earthlings retaliated. She leaned forward, her voice growing heavier with each word. For centuries, the humans had lived in relative peace. They had learned to temper their predatory instincts through alliances and diplomacy. On their home planet, they had fought wars that had devastated their civilizations, but those same wars had taught them the value of restraint. It had been generations since they had tasted the raw fury of survival at all costs. Her voice lowered, taking on an almost reverent tone, but the Azari awakened something primal within them. The first human counterattack was a desperate, uncoordinated effort born of anger and grief. Their ships were hopelessly outmatched by the Azari's advanced fleet, but humanity's greatest strength was not in their ships or their weapons, it was in their minds. The Earthlings adapted, they learned, they fought back with a ferocity that stunned the galaxy. Every time the Azari struck them down, Illyra continued, the Earthlings returned stronger. They analyzed every defeat, every mistake. They reverse-engineered Azari technology with terrifying speed. Within months, their ships were equipped with shields and weapons that mimicked the very energy manipulation techniques the Azari had perfected over millennia. The children shivered, their bioluminescent patterns flickering in response to the story's growing intensity. Illyra's voice carried an ominous weight. What the Azari had failed to understand was that humans evolved on a planet of relentless competition. They are forged in the crucible of survival, shaped by millions of years of conflict and predators larger and stronger than themselves. Their minds became their greatest weapon, capable of creativity and cruelty in equal measure. When the Azari tried to teach them their place, they did not subdue them. They unleashed them. The conflict escalated. The Azari's calculated strategies, once thought infallible, began to falter under humanity's relentless onslaught. Earthling fleets multiplied at an alarming rate, their tactics unpredictable and ruthlessly effective. Unlike the Azari, who adhered to strict codes of engagement, humanity fought without restraint. They employed strategies the Azari found incomprehensible: ambushes, deception, and sacrifices that prioritized victory over survival. What made them so dangerous, Illyra said, her voice trembling, was not their ability to learn. It was their willingness to do whatever it took to win. They cared nothing for honor, for tradition. All that mattered to them was survival. When they looked at the Azari, they didn't see rivals. They saw prey. One decisive battle shattered the illusion of Azari dominance. Humanity lured an entire Azari fleet into a nebula, where they had seeded with mines disguised as cosmic debris. When the mines detonated, the Azari ships were torn apart in a chain reaction of destruction. The survivors, disoriented and leaderless, were hunted down with merciless efficiency. For the first time in millennia, Illyra said, the Azari knew fear. The children sat in stunned silence, their gaze fixed on the teacher. A small Lylin with silver tendrils whispered, did the Azari surrender? Illyra shook her head, her expression grim. No. Their pride would not allow it. They fought to the bitter end, and the Earthlings, those so-called primitive apes, wiped them from existence. Her words hung in the air like a funeral dirge. The children's bioluminescence patterns dimmed as they absorbed the gravity of her story. The Azari's mistake, Illyra said softly, was in believing they were teaching humanity a lesson. Instead, they taught them war, and the galaxy has never recovered. The classroom fell silent, save for the faint hum of the bunker's systems. Beyond its walls, the galaxy lay in ruins, a testament to the wrath of a species that had once reached for the stars with open hands, only to grasp them in a fist of iron. That was part 1 of the Chronicles of the Forgotten Dawn by Ballers on the HFY subreddit. Thank you so much for listening. Hope to see you next time.